Follow the dictates of a higher power, and you will presently live in a new and wonderful world, no matter what your present circumstances. No matter what your present circumstances, this absolutely is a design for living that works in rough going.
Well, hello, friends of Bill W. and other friends. You have landed on Sober Speak. My name is John M. I am an alcoholic, and we are glad you are all here, especially newcomers. Newcomers, that is, both to recovery as a whole and newcomers to this podcast. Sober Speak is a podcast about recovery centered around the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. My job here on Sober Speak is simple. My job is to provide a platform to the amazing stories of recovery all around us. Consider Sober Speak, if you will, your meeting between meetings. Please remember, we do not speak for AA or any 12-step community. We represent only ourselves. We are here to share our experience, strength, and hope with those who wish to come along for the ride. Take what you want and leave the rest at the curb for the trash man to pick up. Hear ye, all ye Sober Speak listeners. This is episode number 192. That's uno nueve dos of Sober Speak. And this is Jenny L. Get in the car live at Tri-Cities, and you are so much going to enjoy this episode. But first things first, this here episode is brought to you by Trudy. Do you know what Trudy did? She went to our website, our brand new website, if you want to go visit it. She went to our website, soberspeak.com. She clicked on the little yellow donate tab, and she made a contribution. Thank you so much, Miss Trudy. This episode is coming right out to you. I, John M., will be the chairperson for this meeting between meetings. And I am truly honored to be just another bozo on the bus and privileged to serve all of you listening in. So take a seat, if you will, around this virtual table and let's get started. Remember, no matter who you are or what your past looks like, you are welcome here. It is an open table, and we are glad that you have joined us. So, my friends, I have had a busy week. I know I am not the only one out there with a busy week, but I guess the reason I'm bringing that up is to say I have been fairly stressed out this week, mainly because of work and a lot of activity going on there. But, now I'm kind of pulling back, and I come up here and I sit at this mic and I take a deep breath in. And it's like taking a respite from all that. And you guys give me purpose. You give me, you are such light. Yeah, all the emails that I get and all the, Instagram messages and Facebook messages and all that. And I just love that we're part of one big community. And I come in here and I take a deep breath when I get behind this mic, and my shoulders just kind of droop back and I feel wonderful. And I just want to thank you all for that. I so much appreciate that. We are now, I'm just going to hop right into the episode today, and we'll have plenty of listener feedback at the end. This is Jenny L. live at the Tri-Cities event. If you want to catch more of Jenny in an interview style, in an interview, You could go to episode number 110. It's called Jenny L. Just Say Yes, but we're calling this one Jenny L. Get in the Car live at Tri-Cities. So enjoy this, if you will, my friends, and we will have plenty listener feedback at the end of Jenny's talk. See you on the back end of this episode.
My name is Jenny, and I'm an alcoholic, and I've been kept sober by the grace of God since May 31st, 2007. And yes, my home group is the Chicago group of Alcoholics Anonymous. We meet on Wednesday nights in Dallas, Texas. And currently we're still on Zoom. And I have a sponsor, and her name is Kim, and she's here. And I have a grand sponsor who's Joanne, and Joanne's on Zoom. Hi, Joanne. And I have sober sisters here. And I have women that I sponsor, and I have grand sponsees here, and I'm right in the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous, and there is no place that I would rather be. And I'm so glad to see so many people from all over that are here, you know, because I'm one of those people that likes to get in the car. And so I would like to thank the committee for asking me. John, is this okay? Is this better? Okay. All right. So I'm glad to be here. I don't know. I'm just going to talk about that for an hour. All right. So anyway, I'm going to start drinking. So I actually have visuals, which are probably a little bit more challenging to do in a room like this. And many of y'all have seen them, but I'm going to show them anyway. And if you want to see them afterwards because you're in the back and you can't see them, well, you can come see them. So they're my first selfies that I took in 2005 on a really bad old camera phone. And they're indicative of what I feel like I was, of who I was when I came in here. So if you can't see them, I have this huge knot on my temple. I have a split lip. It's bloody. It's bruised. And my skin's really bad. I've got bruises elsewhere. And what this one picture right here that you really can't see, but I can see it because I emailed it to myself. And there's no light in my eyes because I'm absolutely hopeless. I'm dead inside. I wanted to die, and everything that I had done to try to kill myself didn't work. And I was living in what the book calls that pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. And that was a woman that came into Alcoholics Anonymous. And because of these steps that I didn't want to do, because of that G word God that I didn't want to have anything to do with because I was mad, because of people like y'all in rooms like these, I have been completely inwardly reorganized and transformed and had that absolute psychic change. And the way that I think and feel and react to life is completely different today. And it's all because of these 12 steps and because of Alcoholics Anonymous. And so I'm going to start drinking. My first drunk, I was 17 and I was on a church camping trip. Now, I had had alcohol in my life before, but this was the drink of consequence. So I am on this church camping trip, and I was raised in a church that was relatively mild as far as religions go. But anyway, we had gone out to Possum Kingdom Lake, and I remember that we were sitting at this picnic table that was a little bit further down the road from where our, tent was. And so I'm sitting at this picnic table, and I've got my boyfriend on the right of me, and I've got this other guy friend on the left of me, and I've got my sister there, and I've got, kids I'd grown up with my whole entire life. And then this drunk redneck brings us this bucket of margaritas, and I remember everything. He sits this bucket down. I remember what he was wearing. I remember, the twinkle in his eye. I remember his haircut. And he sets that bucket down, and then I remember, taking that white little styrofoam cup. Y'all, you know the ones we have in all the AA meetings. And I remember taking it and, dipping it in. And then I remember having that first sip. And, man, I remember that first sip like it was yesterday. Because, y'all, margaritas are tasty, right? But more than anything, I remember how it made me feel. Because what I didn't really realize is that I was sitting there with my shoulders up against my ears. And I'm there with my boyfriend and the friends and my sister. I mean, I knew her whole life. And I didn't really realize it, but I hadn't taken a breath. And so I took that sip of margarita, and all of a sudden I could breathe all the way to my toes, and my shoulders relaxed, and I had that sense of ease and comfort that comes at once, like the book talks about. And my shoulders relaxed, and I could breathe, And then I remember tossing that cup back and then dipping it in and drinking it down and dipping it in and drinking it down. And the next thing I know that I single-handedly drank that whole bucket of margaritas. And I don't think I let anyone get a drink in edgewise. And then anyway, the boyfriend and I decided that we were going to go have sex like you do when you're 17 and you're on a church camping trip. And so we get up and, our tent was down the way a little bit. And so I get up to try to go, we're going to the tent. And I can't walk. I get up and I'm like a little wobbly. And so what happened was the boyfriend and the other guy friend, they hoist me up and they're, carrying me. And my legs didn't walk. I mean, I couldn't work my legs. They were dragging. And so they carried me back down to the tent. And y'all, in hindsight, that was not the best of ideas because my mother works for that church. And, the church counselor was 6 feet away in another tent across a little dirt road. And so anyway, the boyfriend and I are doing what we're doing. And then the next thing I know is that other guy decided that he wanted to jump in too. And I don't want to get any sort of discussion about what really happened on that trip. But what I know is that I was in no way, shape, or form able to make any sort of rational, conscious decision. And so anyway, we were doing what we were doing, the three of us. And then everybody found out about it, and it was crazy, and it was humiliating, and it was embarrassing, and I just had to act like that I was all cool with it, and rock on, I chose to do this, and yeah. But deep inside, I was filled with shame and humiliation. And that's the very first time that I drank. It was from 0 to 160. And there was big drama with the church, and there was a parent, meeting with all the parents and everything, and it was that was just crazy. And it's I didn't want to do that deal, but that was really the first time that I drank. And so what happened is really my whole life I have this incredible, unsheddable burden of self-consciousness where everywhere I go there's this voice in my head that says you're not enough. You're not pretty enough. You're not smart enough. You're not good enough. You're not enough. And for that little sweet spot at some point of drinking a couple of those margaritas, that not enough voice shut up. And I was okay. And then I overshot the mark, and crazy stuff happened. But that feeling enough was enough to make me need to drink again, right? And so I sought that feeling at every step of the way. And pretty much the whole time that I drank, I had consequences, always. The very next time that I drank, I messed up my car in a church parking lot, and there's lots of church parking lots. Anyway, but stuff happens. So then anyway, I graduate high school. I go down to college in Austin where very quickly my alcoholic life becomes the only normal one because I had to be out doing something every single night because I'm just not okay in my own skin. The book talks about how we're restless, we're irritable, we're discontented, and I could not sit still. I couldn't be home. So I had this, $5 pitchers at this bar on Monday nights and whatever Tuesday nights, and I had a plan and a routine every single night because I had to drink. And what I started learning was I always, drank more than my friends. And, we'd say, we're going to go out and we're going to have one pitcher. And then we're going to go home and study or do whatever we were going to do. And I always overshot the mark. And it was 5 pitchers or this or that or, shots for everyone with money I can't afford. And then I started discovering all these other consequences that happened. I throw up a lot. And I don't really like to throw up a lot. But I would be the one that would be sitting outside the bar on 6th Street puking in the gutter. And I'd say, I don't want to do that again. I don't want to do that again. But I would drink and I would drink and I would do it again and again and again and again and always every time. So anyway, I'm drinking like that in college and things are rocking and rolling. And I'm getting through college because I'm super smart. I know Shakespeare. I can manipulate my class so I don't have to go to 8 a.m. classes and I can, do my schedule and I'm hungover all the time and I'm just getting through college. If I show up to afternoon classes and take notes, I learn it, so I'm just getting through school. And then Thanksgiving of my senior year, my best friend commits suicide. And we had grown up at church together, and he was the most amazing human being that I had ever met. And he killed himself because he was gay. And I remember we were home for Thanksgiving, and we had his funeral, and I remember that the people at my church told me that he was going to hell. And it was literally last March where I realized, oh my God, it probably was one person who told me this. And I did this wholesale condemnation of religion and God and everything when it was probably one person that told me that. And what's really cool about AA is, how we get to choose our own conception of God in here. And I didn't know that then. So what I did was I basically used it as this giant renouncement of God, and just went off on, just a bender. I drank. I didn't leave my couch. I didn't graduate college. I got to graduate or walk across the stage in a cap and gown and look like I graduated. But, I was 1 hour shy. But who cares? I have a photo. That's good enough, right? Totally. So anyway, I leave Austin and I come back home, and my alcoholic life just takes off and it becomes the only normal one. What I do for a living is highly conducive to drinking and partying, and I got a job working for this alternative news weekly. And I was like, Bill, I had arrived. We had beer reps bring us alcohol. We had a stock bar at work. I'm dating my boss, so I get away with a lot. I get paid for a lot of work I didn't actually work, and I'm just drinking all the time. And what happens is I would, I was going out every single night. And so here's where I needed a way to fix it. I was trying to control and enjoy my drinking, and I absolutely want to respect the podium of Alcoholics Anonymous, but we'll just say that I started accessorizing my drinking with a whole bunch of dry goods. Someone put it as condiments the other day. I really like the condiments. That's good. I like condiments. So anyway, I was accessorizing my drinking with a whole bunch of dry goods because I realized that these certain dry goods would allow me to stay upright and sober and not throw up, and I could drink for days and days and days at a time, and stay at the bar and be relatively social and not puking. And so that's what happened. So anyway, I'm going through life and I'm doing all this, and and I started having more and more consequences. Inside I was starting to feel worse and worse. And all of us, the consequences are not what makes us alcoholic. This is just my story. This is just where alcoholism takes me, to crazy things and doing crazy things with crazy people. And inside I'm feeling worse and worse. And that church camping trip situation where I had to drink some more to stuff the feelings of guilt and shame. And I just did that over and over and again. And I hated myself so much, and it was just getting more worthless feeling and more hopeless feeling and more lonely, sitting in a room with all these people I thought were my best friends for a week, And then the consequences started happening. So I lost that one job at the newspaper, and I got a better job, even, actually, where I had an expense account. And I was dating all my college friends who were, let me party. And I got away with a lot, and then I lost that job and then started a whole bunch of jobs where it's I'd get a job for 2 weeks and then I'd lose that job again. And, and at some point in there, I couldn't hold down a place to live, and I had moved in. My uncle owned these 2 homes, and I lived with my girl cousin, and her brother, who was a heroin addict, lived across the street. And my cousin and we would drive across town in ice storms to go to my home bar to get alcohol and to get cigarettes and free pizza and all that kind of stuff. And it was I was willing to do whatever it took to get what I needed to get, because I would get free alcohol at this bar. What I know now is that's actually called stealing. But anyway, so I got, I was doing all that, and then my uncle kicked me out because I was pretty worthless and I couldn't get a job and pay rent. And so my uncle kicked me out, but that's okay. I met a guy at a bar. And it wasn't like that, I always had guys, but this one he was a lighting guy for a band. And so he was on tour and he needed someone to house and pet sit. And so I decided that I was going to move in with him, and he had this 13-year-old blind dog, and he had a cat. And y'all, I'm super allergic to cats, and I'm really not a fan of cats. So sorry if you like cats. I'm not a cat lady. And anyway, so, but I moved in because I needed a place to live. And so I'll just do whatever. And so, y'all, this is the kind of person that I am when I'm an alcoholic in their cups is an unlovely creature. I was supposed to take care of this man's dog. I was supposed to walk that dog at least twice a day. And I can recall one time that I'm dead certain, one time I walked that dog in the 6-7 months that I lived there. And then that dog died on my watch. And I didn't kill the dog, and I'd done some step work around the dog, but I certainly was neglectful of that dog, and I had to call Randy, and he was in Mexico, and I had to tell him his dog died, and he kicked me out. That's okay. I had backup. There was a guy, and he liked me, and so I didn't really like him, but I decided I'm going to move in with him. And so when I moved in with him, I told him, I said, well, I'm an alcoholic. I didn't really know what that meant, but I knew I drank a lot. I was like, I'm an alcoholic, and I said, I'm going to cheat on you because I did that a lot too. And I said, I have a raging problem with cocaine, and I'm going to take all your money. And he said, move in. And so So he drank a lot, and I drank a lot. But like I said, I was awake a lot, and so he passed out a lot. And so he was asleep, and I was awake, and we were like ships passing in the night. And, and that didn't really go so well. So anyway, it also got abusive. And when I say it got abusive, I'm the abusive one. Because if you don't act right and you don't do what I want you to do when I want you to do it, I'm going to shove you, and I'm going to be really critical and nasty and mean, and I'm just not nice. And so it got abusive. And then I decided that I was tired of him beating me up. And, cause really it was me, we make stuff up in our heads. And so anyway, I went and got a job. And I was, I'm going to use this word loosely because I went to a job, and I was, basically I worked part-time, like about 4 hours a week. And and it was at a makeup counter at the mall, which was great for me because I could like be hungover. I'd come to about 4:30 p.m. I'd go to work. I'd stand there at work, just try not to heave. I'd put on makeup to get all dolled out to go out later that night. And so it was a perfect job for me. And then what I decided to do was I decided I needed my own place to live, which is absolutely something you do when you work about 4 hours a week. You go get an apartment you can't afford. And so anyway, I do that, and by this point I have to drink like I have to breathe. And I had no money, clearly. So I would go get a 40 or a pint or whatever, and then I would go to this one bar that I had befriended people there, and there was a couple of guys that I could work for some cocktails. And, the owner of the bar was one of the guys I could see for some other accessories. And I would go home to my apartment, and I would, sit in my closet cross-legged on the floor, terrified, and I would drink, and I would cry. And I was so lonely, and I was so hopeless, and I was so miserable. And at some point in there, I had gone to the bar one night, and I was actually injured with a brown recluse spider bite, and I had a gaping hole in my leg. And I needed a drink, and so I went up there. And long story short, I moved a homeless guy in with me that night to take care of me and play nursemaid on my leg. And so I'm all laid up, and I moved this guy in. His name was New York, and so I move in New York, and so he's taking care of me, and I start selling my stuff to pay for cigarettes and vodka. And anyway, he would go to the pawn shop, and he would do all this and that. And then at some point, you got evicted because, when you don't pay rent, you get evicted. And so New York leaves, and then I need a place to live. And that's okay because, like I said, I always have backup. See, I had a girlfriend. She was like my best drinking buddy, and I could use her for stuff, like cigarettes and pizza, buy me like some beer. And so anyway, she had this boyfriend. And I had met him when I was in a blackout, and I didn't really remember him clearly, but he remembered meeting me, and so he had called me later. And when we hooked up again, I didn't like this guy at all. Y'all, he made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. But I moved in with him because he had a roof, he had a swimming pool, he had cable. He'd buy my vodka and my cigarettes and food if I chose to eat it. And so I moved in with this guy. And it got real abusive real fast. And when I say it got abusive, he was the abusive one. And he was flinging me around like a rag doll and beating me up and pulling guns on me and all that kind of stuff. And I kept thinking, I'm a victim. But I moved myself in there. I am absolutely not a victim. I chose to dance with every single one of these people, right? So anyway, I move in with this guy, and he's beating me up and doing this and that and the other. And then I start running around trying to get away from him. And what I was doing is I was running around East Dallas. And, so I went to college for journalism. And so I wanted to expose all the shady businesses on Lower Greenville. And I was going to write a story, and I was going to be the next Jack Kerouac. And so I started, getting away from this guy and running around East Dallas and, writing stuff. I even had a little mini cassette recorder. People did not like that, by the way. But anyway, I was running around doing that, and I started meeting some, some of those, lower companions the book talks about, and some criminal degenerate friends. And at some point in there, the guy's beating me up, and he's, hitting me upside the head with a little, gun or whatever, and I'm not liking that too much. And so I have this brilliant idea that I want to get back at him. So I run this idea by my criminal degenerate friends, and when your criminal degenerate friends say it's a bad idea, it might be a bad idea. But anyway, I wanted to do what I wanted to do, and what I decided that I was going to do was I decided that I was going to chop his Chevy Tahoe. And y'all look like a room who, some of y'all might know what chop a car means, and if you don't, it means sell a car for parts. So I sold his car for $100, a bag of Cheetos, some Gatorade, and a pack of cigarettes, maybe a Snickers. It wasn't even a real chop shop. It was a shady convenience store in East Dallas on the corner of Gaston and Fitzhugh. And anyway, so I did that. And at some point in there, I go back to his house and, like, you know, whatever. And then shortly after that, he's beating me up again. So I run away again and I get arrested. And I'm sitting in Dallas County Jail going, you know, God, I don't belong here. I don't belong here at all. You know, what is wrong with me? You know, I went to college. You know, like, my parents didn't raise me this way. I mean, I came from a good home. You know, I mean, I wouldn't have said that then, but I did. You know, none of my childhood was anything that would cause this, but this is alcoholism because it just doesn't care, right? So I'm sitting in jail going, I'm never doing this again. I'm never doing this again. And then this guy bonds me out, which I don't know why he bonded me out because, you know, the Tahoe stunt. But he bonds me out, and I'm sitting there going, okay, like, some of y'all have been to jail. So y'all remember when you, like, have, you get closer and closer to getting bonded out, and you're moved from tank to tank to tank. And as I'm moved from tank to tank to tank, I'm going, I have $10 on my books. You know, I need cigarettes, I need a beer or vodka, I need a Snickers, you know, whatever. And so I start triaging, you know, what I need. I'll pick up snipes off the street, cigarette butts off the street, you know, I'll bum a light, you know, I'll do this or whatever. And so literally that time that he bonds me out, like, Dallas County Jail has a parking lot that's adjacent to, like, the courthouse. It's not even across the street. And I have a bottle to my lips because I cannot bring to mind with sufficient force the memory of the suffering and humiliation of a week or a month ago. Like, I'm literally not even off the jail property. And I have a drink because I can't even go across the street to the bail bondsman's because I have no solution. Like, I have to have a drink. So anyway, he bonds me out, and when he bonds me out, he tells me that he's moving to Illinois. And I'm thinking, what am I going to do? Like, he's my source. Like, where am I going to live, you know? And I thought, when you're bonded out of jail, that you do need to show back up for court. And it turns out that you do. But I learned that later. So anyway, what happened was I didn't know this, but I jumped bond. And I went to Illinois, and he was beating me up in Illinois. And it was not good. So I call my granddad in Fort Worth, and I get him to wire me some money, and I come home on a bus, and I'm fully homeless. And back when I had moved homeless New York guy in, you know, I had sold my bedding. I had sold my pots and pans and my kitchen stuff. You know, I had sold computer equipment, you know, CD burners and stuff like that. And at this point, I had nothing else to sell. And Carla R., speaker from California, talks about you do the next indicated thing. And so I just did the next indicated thing because I had something to sell. And that's what alcoholism does, is it just takes away every bit of your dignity and your integrity and your humanity and your spirit and your soul, just one drink at a time. And I kept giving it away for just one more drink. And I was hanging out with sick people in sick places and scary places and places nobody should be at 5 a.m. And I was doing other things and starting to commit crimes, and I was running around, and I was hopeless, and I was lonely, and I was miserable. And my family was way done with me, and my normal friends were way done with me, and y'all, even my criminal degenerate friends were way done with me. You know, at some point way before, I had dated a coke dealer, and he took me home and deposited me with my mama and said, she has a problem. And when your coke dealer boyfriend says you have a problem, you might have a problem. Anyway, so I'm out there on the streets, and I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'm lonely, and I don't want to drink anymore, and I don't know how to get off this hamster wheel that I'm on. And it's just crazy, and it's like I'm lonely and I'm miserable. And at some point in there, I got arrested again, and I was given deferred, you know, whatever. I never could sober up long enough to show up to probation. I'm running around, I'm doing what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. And so at some point in there, I meet this guy, you know, typical, and he moved me in for like a week, and he said, you have a problem. And I was like, you think? And he got me to go to a treatment center. So I went to a treatment center for like 2 weeks at the beginning of 2006. And what happened then was I had discovered that little bond jumping Illinois thing had turned into a bond forfeiture, and Dallas County wanted to find me really bad. And so it was like I went to the treatment center to kind of placate the judge and look good, but I wasn't done yet. And, and I also knew that my charges were such that it was really like I was going to face some charges. I didn't know what was going to happen, but there was some stuff going to be coming down for me. So I went to kind of look good, but I wasn't done yet. And I remember getting out of treatment, and I was like, I don't want to do this other stuff, and I don't want the consequences, and I don't want to feel this way anymore. And I was looking at prison time for like some stuff I had done. And so I was like, I just need a drink. If I could just drink a martini like a lady, if I could just go to the balcony club and, have a few martinis. I was like, I'm not going to do that other stuff. And it was like, y'all, okay, this is probably sacrilege in Texas, but I'm not a fan of country music. Well, I wasn't. I'm better now. But anyway, I even went to like some country bar to drink long necks and ride a mechanical bull because I thought that would fix me. It didn't. Totally didn't. And I was really too wasted to ride that stupid bull. But anyway, so I was out for like a week, and I remember vividly. So Lower Greenville, the bar street in Dallas, had this rooftop bar, and I remember I had my backpack on, and I remember walking by myself, and I remember like the people on the roof, and I remember hearing the laughter and the conviviality. I remember the like twinkling lights and hearing the music, and I just wanted friends. I just wanted friends. I wanted to be able to laugh because I hadn't laughed in so long, and have a like true, genuine smile. And that twinkle in your eye, and I wanted to do something at the tail end, just something innocent like swing on a swing set, and I hadn't done anything like that in so long because I was just this close to dead. And so anyway, I'm walking up that street, and I just want off that hamster wheel. And so I was arrested for the final time February 11th, 2006. And I remember when I was speeding in Richardson, Texas, which you do not speed in Richardson, Texas. Didn't even see the police officer. And I remember feeling relief when I was arrested. And that lasted about 30 seconds. And then I was full of self-righteous indignation. And, and they even locked me. Anyway, whatever, never. One of those straitjackety things. Someone was talking about that the other day, and I forgot about that. Like in those chairs. Horrible. Anyway, I was like a real criminal because what I had discovered is that I had 2 charges for felonies for burglary of habitats for that Tahoe stunt, and I had also broken into this other guy's house and relieved him of his DVD player and stuff like that because he told me he would take care of me, but he didn't. So I helped myself, and I gave him the pawn tickets back, so I don't know why he pressed charges. He could go get his stuff. But anyway, so I'm sitting in jail, and then I go to Dallas County Jail, and I was there for a while. And then I finally got my sentencing, and I was sentenced to 6 months in the Dallas County Judicial Treatment Center. It's a hardcore behavior modification program. I was given 10 years of probation and $40,000 in restitution to pay back. And I went to treatment. And I'm sitting there in treatment looking at the steps on the wall from morning to night going, I'm not like you people. I went to college. I know Shakespeare. But I was a liar, and I was a cheat, and I was a thief, and I was a lot of other things, and I was so very sick, and I was an alcoholic. I just didn't know it yet. And I was so full of pride and arrogance, and I had such a closed mind. But what happened is that women from Alcoholics Anonymous started coming in and carrying this message. They started carrying a message of depth and weight with this big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and they started telling me about alcoholism. And they started telling me about the nature of the allergy and what that looked like. And I was like, oh, okay, I get it. I'm allergic to cashews and cats, and it was like, so I can get what that looks like, but then they really explained it. It's like this phenomenon of craving, and I could see the margarita situation. I'm like, oh, okay. And then they started explaining, and also we have this mental obsession, and what that looks like is I have a broke brain. That is basically like I have this internal GPS that my brain is always rerouting towards alcohol, no matter what. And if I don't have alcohol, I'm restless, I'm irritable, I'm discontent. It's that incredible, unsheddable burden of self-consciousness, that whole thing. The book talks about the bedevilments on page 52, where we're prey to misery and depression, full of fear, lonely, all the stuff, And I'm like, yeah. And so alcohol was my solution that treated what really is my problem, is this hopeless state of mind and body. I have this spiritual malady. And alcohol worked to fix it for a while, but it didn't work. And what happens is these women started telling me about the sufficient substitute that they found in Alcoholics Anonymous by taking these steps and getting a connection to a higher power that will solve their problem. And anyway, and I didn't want anything to do with that G word I saw in the third step, because I saw because of what happened with my friend Colin. Didn't want anything to do with it. So anyway, I started learning about alcoholism. I'm treatment, I'm doing the deal, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm not doing the deal, I'm doing treatment deal. So I get out of treatment and I go right back to doing what I was doing, because I was basically locked up for that whole year, and I didn't find that sufficient substitute. So I still had my problem, which was me, and so I went right back to doing what I was doing. And I drank this and that didn't work, and this didn't work and that didn't work, and I was experimenting or whatever. And I had an original sobriety date in January of 2007, but without a program, without a sponsor, without anything. In May of 2007, my friend called and said, "Hey, do you want to come party?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And without a thought of the consequences, I got in the car and I drove to her house. And she had this tiny, tiny, tiny little bag of cocaine. And I was expected to share it. And I did. And it was like 2 little tiny bits of, whatever. And it was enough to make me need a drink. And so I got in the car and drove back to my house. And by this point, I lived with a boy, like you do. I didn't really like the guy, but I needed, I moved in with him because I needed a place to live and get out of my sober living apartment or place. So anyway, I knew the guy would be, he would bust me, and I was a little on edge, and so I needed to drink. And so I walked down the nearest 7-Eleven, and with dimes and nickels, because that's all I had, I bought the cheapest 40 ounce of God knows what kind of beer. And I slid it across that counter with just guilt and shame, because I hated myself so much, because what I knew I was doing everything against, like, my soul and my values, right? And I knew I was doing something wrong, but I could not drink, because I'm powerless. And I could not manage a decision on my own not to drink without something else to stop that. That's something else that I've now found through these steps with a higher power that I connected to through taking these steps. And so anyway, I had my last drink, and, it was like in a paper bag in my closet of my apartments, sober living apartments. And it was really lame as far as the last hurrah goes, but it really was my true step one surrender, where I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that I was powerless. And at the time, so I didn't have a sponsor, but I had a friend. And she had gotten this new sponsor. She had been working a program, but she got a new sponsor, and all of a sudden she had this new light in her eyes. And I wanted what she had. Because what had happened was when I got out of treatment, I had gotten a guy, I'd gotten an apartment, I'd gotten a car, I'd gotten the clothes and the bank account and a job and all the stuff. And on the outside, stuff looked good. Looks like I'm sober. I'm not homeless anymore. The consequences aren't happening. But inside, I had this gnawing at my soul. Is there all there is? There's got to be something more. And so when Christina had gotten this new sponsor and she got that light in her eyes, I wanted what she had. And so I asked that woman, her sponsor, Paula, to sponsor me. And the first thing that woman said was, "I'm only going to help you if you're willing to help others. Because, we have to give it away to keep it." And she says, "Are you willing to sponsor women when I take you through the steps?" And I said, yes. I was terrified, but what else? I was desperate. And so anyway, and then that woman got me into the book. She got me into the steps. She got me into service, and she got me in the car. And because I had one of those get in the car kind of sponsors, I'm here tonight in Frisco, Texas, because I was taught to get in the car. And I was taught about the nature of having a home group. And I was taught about having commitments, committed meetings at those home groups, and then also to take commitments. And we were going everywhere every single night. We had a plan and we had a routine. And get in the car. And boy, there were times I did not want to get in the car. And she was like, "I don't care how you feel, get in the car." And I'm very grateful. And we were doing stuff all the time, and I started taking these steps, and my life started to change. And absolutely, it started to change. And because of the steps that I took, that I did and continue to take, but that I didn't want to do, I developed a relationship with a higher power that could only be HP at first, and then now it's God. And now it continues to grow and evolve, and it's like I get a deeper relationship, and then there's some times that it's like I feel like God's removed, and but I continue to seek, continue to try to improve my conscious contact. And I continue to do this deal because my life has absolutely, like I said, it's been transformed. That I absolutely have a hope today and joy today. And I never thought that. I hated myself so much. I couldn't talk to y'all. I was so scared. Felt like I was so worthless and just like unworthy and unlovable and unforgivable. And God and y'all and everything has completely changed that. And it takes work. You know, the book talks about in step 9, it says it twice, we must not shrink at anything. You know, it says reminding ourselves that we're willing to go to any lengths for a spiritual experience, you know, for victory over alcohol. You know, and it's like I've been willing to face the things that, you know, like I didn't want to face. And it's like, but every single time I'm willing to do that, you know, it's like more layers of the onion, and God gets to just demonstrate through us what he can do. And it's such a miracle. And there were some things that I thought I was completely unforgivable for, and through this process, God has transformed me. So 3 times I got pregnant, and 3 times I chose to not have those babies. And that was the hardest thing, you know, where I was like, I'm good. Don't need to have these kids. Probably better off, you know, certainly would drag them through, you know, hell, being homeless and stuff like that. And when I got sober, I thought that it didn't bother me, and I thought that I was cool, and I thought that I was fine. But through this process, I learned that I wasn't fine, and I was unblocked. And here's the deal, because, you know, in step 9, basically, if God's in me and God's in you, and I'm blocked from you, then I'm blocked from God. And so I need to do everything to try to go out and make these amends and make amends to them all. And then, of course, like the book says, sometimes people can't be seen. And those little babies couldn't be seen. But we can make amends to them. And so I got to send them an honest letter. And through guidance of my sponsor at the time, I got to do that. And I did some other stuff that was not in the big book, so I won't share it. But I'll share it offline later if you want to know. And I got to get healed. A week later, I was at my home group, and I got called up to the podium, and there was a little boy, and he was antsy, so some woman was pacing up the side of the room with him. And I remember I was up at the podium, and I look over, and I see that little boy, Jackson, and God literally pulled the shame out of me. He pulled the shame out of me, and I felt it. It was really trippy. But anyway, a little bit later, this woman asked me to sponsor her who had had a kid. And see, before I had a sponsee who wanted to get pregnant, and I was so blocked that I had not fit myself to be of maximum service, like the book talks about we do. And so I couldn't help this woman, and I was like, why do you want to get pregnant, whatever, and I was very dismissive and just kind of abrasive, and it wasn't very helpful or effective. But anyway, fast forward to when I finally got to be healed from that, I was able to sponsor this one woman. And, you know, when she had the baby, she almost lost that baby, and I was at the hospital, which is a huge gift. And then shortly afterwards, my sister called me, and she was pregnant. Now, my sister has been my person, and she was, you know, like when we were head to head in separate rooms as little girls, knocking on the wall, you know, and sticking up for me against my parents. And then, you know, I broke into her house, and I had kilos of cocaine in her house when she was in law school. And she had to come, you know, I didn't care. And she had to come bless me out of jail and all this kind of, well, she didn't get me out of jail. She left me in jail, which helped, actually. But, you know, my sister was my person. And because of this amends process, my sister and I had gotten to make amends. But then when she told me she was pregnant, it was a huge, huge deal, because I've been able to be there for her every step of the way. And that little girl just turned 2 on April 7th, and she's the most amazing human being on this planet. And it is such a gift to get to be in her life and to participate, because, you know, alcoholism, I'd say it robbed me of motherhood, but I just gave it away because I needed another drink, and another, and another. And that's such an amazing deal. And so there's been so many amends that are like I don't have time to talk about, but God, like when I'm just willing to take that risk, God like shows up and shows off most of the time. And it's a really cool deal. And through this whole thing, you know, I was taught what to do. I'm active in all 3 legacies of Alcoholics Anonymous. Y'all know the little the logo with this triangle, the recovery, the unity, and the service. And, you know, I'm active in the steps in, you know, some way, shape, or form every single day. And the unity is so huge. It's really huge, and it's why I'm so grateful to be here with y'all today. You know, like, Zoom was great, and it is great. It's helpful. Some people really need it. What I was learning is last year, I need y'all. I never thought I needed y'all when I was drinking alone in my closet and squatting wherever and running the streets. But I need y'all. And so I was like, God, when I got to see people and actually hug people, God, what a huge, huge, huge deal. And then also getting to be of service. You know, a lot of the service commitments have been a little few and far between, and it was like making up what I could do for people digitally and online. In fact, one of the home groups is an outdoor meeting that started last year, and it's a fireside meeting. And me and Elizabeth, like, we were trying to figure out stuff to do, and I needed to be of service, so I would go on walks and, like, pick up sticks off the sidewalk. And then Elizabeth called me one night. I was like, what do? I was like, go to the park and pick up sticks. So we have kindling commitments, which is new and different. Y'all have heard of the coffee commitments, but now we have kindling commitments. And, but, you know, just getting really creative. And then for some of y'all that are, like, you know, during COVID, like, the whole get in the car thing was like, we can't. So getting super creative of what can we do to get in the car, meaning to take action. And it's really cool, and to get to be of service. And that was what I was taught to do from the very beginning, you know. And then what's the most amazing, amazing thing is that from somebody who was so hopeless and worthless and a thief and a criminal and a liar and all this stuff, what God can do in this program is that my dark past has become my greatest asset. And with it, I get to avert death and misery for others. And I get to walk this journey with y'all, you know, and then I get to, like, put my hand in my sponsor's hand, and then I get to put my hand out in the women I sponsor's hand. And I've been really blessed with just some amazing sponsorship for sure, but the women that are in my life and continue to be placed in my life just inspire me every single day. And they make me work harder, and they make me dig in, and they call me, and they truly are. The 12-step promises talk about frequent contact with each other, you know, with is the bright spot in our lives. Maybe I could actually, like, read the book. I just opened up right to it. How fun is that? Life will take on new meaning. To watch people recover, to see them help others, to watch loneliness vanish, to see a fellowship grow up about you, to have a host of friends. This is an experience you must not miss. We know you will not want to miss it. Frequent contact with newcomers and with each other is the bright spot of our lives. And that is absolutely true. And I just get to see y'all walk through some stuff, and it's amazing and it's inspiring. And to just continue to do this deal no matter what, you know, to continue to trudge. Sometimes we're skipping, sometimes we're doing handsprings, but sometimes it's just trudging. And we just continue to do this, and we try to continue to help others. And it's really a great deal. So I want to wrap up with one of my favorite promises. It's on page 100 of the big book, and I was presented with the 9-step promises at my very first meeting at my old home group when I was still in treatment. And those 9-step promises are great. We read them all the time, but y'all, there's like 150 promises in this book, and my favorite ones are these ones on page 100. I opened right up to it again. Hey, thanks, God. And I think it beautifully summarizes this program. And it says that both you and the new man must walk day by day in the path of spiritual progress. If you persist, remarkable things will happen. When we look back, we realize that the things which came to us when we put ourselves in God's hands were better than anything we could have planned. Follow the dictates of a higher power, and you will presently live in a new and wonderful world, no matter what your present circumstances. No matter what your present circumstances, this absolutely is a design for living that works in rough going. You know, and I get to have this life that's beyond my wildest dreams with Jenny's husband. We're recently empty nesters. I'm so excited, I can hardly stand it. We do need to do some work on the teenager's room, though, but this is a high-class problem. From somebody that lived in Dallas County's homes and squatted and was homeless to someone that has a home where we get to have people in our home. You know, right now our home group is still on Zoom. So we're starting to have people over on Wednesday nights in our living room, just like Clarice and T. Henry Williams, who were like the people in Akron that allowed the first members of the Oxford group before it was AA. They met in a home. And it's so amazing that I get to do that today and get to walk this path with not only y'all, but you, Greg, Jenny's husband. And anyway, and it's all just absolute miracles because I was taught to just say yes and get in the car. So anyway, thank you so much for being here tonight. And if you're new, I urge you, just get a sponsor, just say yes and get in the car. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Jenny L. Once again, as I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, if you want to hear a little bit more of a Jenny L., go to episode number 110 of Sober Speak, and we have her in an interview, and the episode is called Just Say Yes. Now, on to a bit of listener feedback. And the first bit of listener feedback here was actually posted on our Podbean page, which is a podcast player. And this comes from Rain. Rain is raining down on us with comments. I'm sorry. Anyway, she says Jennifer's story, and she's talking about Jennifer H.K. that we have parts 1 and 2 on a couple of weeks ago. She says, Jennifer's story is one I can truly identify with. It is so similar and amazingly close to my heart that she actually brought some clarity to my understanding and my alco-logic behavior. And that's a term that Jennifer H.K. used on her episode. My alcoholic behavior and my visits to jail were so regular, it became just another day in the office. I couldn't understand what was so wrong with me. I blamed it on everything and everyone but myself. Now I am completing step 8 and I have the most wonderful sponsor, and my friendships are those that I have met in my AA group, my AA home group. I love life. Thank you so much, Rain, for writing in. I sure do appreciate that. Or I guess I say for writing in. She actually posted for what it's worth, that like anyone's keeping score at home. Anyway, Mark writes in and he says, Hola, John. And I believe Mark is mocking my bilinguality here, but he says, 2 quick notes of appreciation for you, mi amigo. First note, he says, Jennifer H.K., who was just referenced by Rain on the previous comment on our Podbean page. He says, Jennifer H.K. is my new favorite Sober Speak guest. Well, that is saying a lot, Mr. Mark. Her wit and delivery had me laughing out loud. Of course, she was genuine, heartfelt, and honest as she told her story. And to do so in such a funny way, she is talented. Point number 2 from Mr. Mark. He said, in your listener feedback section, I gotta say to I know what he's referencing here is I played a voicemail from, I think it's Margie, a couple of ways. I had a hard time understanding the actual name. But anyway, Marge was none too pleased with, I guess, some of the gibberish that happens on this podcast, and I had no way to reply and email with Marge because there was no email left or anything like that. But anyway, he says, I gotta say to Marge, who does not like your banter or your shenanigans, she doesn't have to listen. It's a free country. Find a different podcast. I give you such credit for sharing feedback that is critical of your work and your style. You handled that with grace and much class. Much respect on that. You keep rocking in air quotes, the pod. You have so many fans. Oh gosh, I do not consider what I have as fans, but I appreciate that more. These are just like, I don't know. I feel like I'm just meeting a bunch of people in meetings, sharing in meetings, and we get to talk to each other afterwards about it. But anyway, you have many fans all over the world who choose to listen to you in big capital letters. Your work makes a difference and is appreciated. With gratitude, Mark A. in Wilmington, Delaware. Well, Mark A., mi amigo, thank you, my friend. I appreciate you saying all of that. Megan C. writes in, and Megan says, "Hi, John M. I live in Ypsilanti, Michigan." Ypsilanti. So now the first thing I'm thinking in my head, right now, this is not normal, I'm sure, and I'm sure this does not happen in Ypsilanti, but I'm wondering if people walk around all day saying, how's it going? Yippers? Yippers? Yipper. I'm from Ypsilanti. Yippers? But nonetheless, I live in Ypsilanti. Now, can you imagine if Marge was, I hope that he or she is still not listening to this particular podcast, because they're going to blow a top, I'm sure. Nonetheless, I live in Ypsilanti, Michigan, Eastern Michigan University near Ann Arbor. My sobriety date is November 18th of 2020. I found Sober Speak on my Apple Podcast channel and listened to it on my commute to work. I've only heard a few speakers so far, but Julia M. was memorable for me, and how much, that's actually Julia K., was memorable for me, and how much she loves AA and being of service. I've found it helps me stay sober when I'm being of service. Megan C. Well, Megan C., I concur. And the people that I see that are happiest in this program are able to get out of themselves and somehow serve others. And I really appreciate you writing in. And I'm sorry I talk so much about Ypsilanti, but it is kind of a funny name. You know what I'm saying? Luis DMs me on the gram, and he says, "Hello, John. This is Luis C. I'm originally from Mexico, but I now live in Ottawa, Canada. Today is my first year anniversary of sobriety." Well, yippee, Mr. Luis. Yippee can be used in so many different ways. Anyway, Yippers. Anyway, I'll just shut up now, because I'm really, really going on a tangent, and I'm trying to figure it all out in my head as I go. Anyways, he says, "I couldn't have made it without my home group, my higher power, my sponsor, and your podcast. Thanks all of you for being on the road with me. I'm going to take this day as I always do, one day at a time. Muchas gracias." Well, muchas gracias to you, Luis. And once again, congratulations on your first year anniversary. That's a big one, and I'm really, really glad for you. Austin writes in, and Austin says, "Hey, John, my name is Austin, and I live in Milton, Georgia. It's a suburb north of Atlanta. I'm 39 years old, and I've been in the program off and on for about the past 6 years. I'm about 40 days sober after going back out for the past 2 years. I've been listening to your podcast since day one of sobriety, and in parentheses, this time, and I cannot tell you how much I appreciate what you do." Well, I appreciate you, Mr. Austin. He says, "I attend meetings on a regular basis and have been listening to Sober Speak in my car during my work commute. It's honestly one of the best parts of my day. I'm in surgical sales, so I spend a lot of time in my car driving to hospitals. Sober Speak has been a huge part of my sobriety, to say the least. I look forward to listening to your sincere perspective on recovery, and absolutely love the guests. My favorite guest so far has been Bob S. from the Marine Force Con episodes. Bob's story had me literally on the edge of my seat. What an incredible journey. My favorite part was in the end when he met his war buddy's son at a meeting whom he had held when he died in the war. Simply amazing. Anyway, John, wow, I just got a little chill up my spine remembering that part of Bob's story, and I completely understand that. Awesome. Man, do I understand that. In fact, I've been texting back and forth with Bob here over this past week. Part of what I was texting him was your feedback. Anyway, I know he loved it. I love this too, and I appreciate you watching. Anyway, I'm not finished up. Anyway, Sober Speak is the best. I think you are an incredible person. Oh, you're too kind. Please keep up the great work. I'll definitely be listening. Thanks, brother. Austin R. Well, thank you, brother, for writing in. I do appreciate it, and thanks for reminding me of that episode. Last but definitely not least, Elaine writes in. And the subject line of Elaine's message was barely sober. She says, John, thank you for your podcast. My name is Elaine and I'm an alcoholic. I've been sober for 22 days. Good for you, Elaine. I have a terrible time sharing and speaking in meetings. I cry when I say anything. Cry when somebody else cries. Well, just listen to Matthew M. and he was vulnerable and I cried on that one too. It made me feel normal. Well, it is normal to cry, Elaine. I cry all the time as well. I completely get it. She says, here's a silly story. I was super hungover on Sunday, May 23rd. Monday, still feeling shame and asked a friend how she quit drinking. Well, she picked me up and took me to a meeting. That night I had a dream about a super cute baby elephant. I was selected to carry the baby elephant. He was playing with my hair and my nose and my glasses. He was super funny and sweet. I told a friend of mine and she looked up the meaning. Dreaming of a baby elephant represents new opportunities that can lead to massive success in your future. If the baby elephant is happy or is in water, it is a sign of good luck and prosperity in your future. If the baby elephant is angry or hurt, it is a sign that the decision you are making may not lead to success. Later, I looked up that an elephant at birth weighs 200 to 300 pounds. Ha ha ha. Can you put me in the super secret Facebook group? Elaine. Well, Elaine, as you know, you made it in, and I hope that I have a dream about a little baby elephant tonight. A happy and super cute baby elephant. All right, looks like I'm losing my voice, so that must be the end for me. Keep coming back, everybody. It works if you work it. So glad everybody could join us along for the ride today. I take this 1 week at a time. I will most likely be back again next week. I'm traveling again this week, and let's hope I make it back. Anyway, God bless you. Love you guys.
Expect me.